bed bugs were falling into their bed. Right? And so I want us to start by inviting Mrs. Armenal Dodds, the mortgage broker, to please come up and start the event with us. Please, let's welcome Mrs. Armenal Dodds. She will tell you what mortgage brokerage is about.
Morning, everyone. I'm Armenal. I'm the mortgage broker, and I've been giving advice and arranging mortgages for the last 25 years. Can you hear me okay without using the mic? Do you want us to use the mic? Okay. Right. I'll start again then. Good morning, everyone. My name is Armenal Dodds. I'm the mortgage broker, and I have been arranging mortgages and giving advice for the last 25 years in the mortgage industry. Thank you for inviting me here today. First of all, I thought what we would do is start from the very beginning of the process of looking for a property and buying a house. And to me, I think it's such a big thing in your life to own your own property that you should really, sorry, can you hear me? I keep taking them out. It really starts when you leave school. I think in the school program, when you're 16 to 18, you should be taught about finance. It would give you a much better start in life for preparing for when you get married or when you want to buy your own property. And this is where I think it falls down the school project. So before you start thinking about looking for a property, you should really get everything in order and know what you're going to need beforehand. The best advice, first of all, before you even start looking, is to make sure that all your finances are in good shape. Look at your credit report. Now, I know a lot of people think that, I know by experience, a lot of people don't even know how to get the Experian report or Equifax report. But if you just go online, it's very simple to do. Why this is important is because although you don't have credit problems yourself, you don't know whether there's going to be mistakes on that report. And I have seen many times that there's been a problem, and when we've gone in and got the credit report, there's things on there that don't even belong to the clients. So it's a really good idea to check that that's right before, as you say, to get everything in order. 6 months before you want to start looking for a property, make sure that over the next 6 months leading up to that, you look after your bank statements. You make sure that everything's kept in order with those, that you don't miss any payments, that you don't have anything on there that you wouldn't want a lender to know you were spending your money on. Could be anything. And also to start keeping your last 4 months' pay slips leading up to speaking to a broker. These are the most important things to do. It means that once you go and make an appointment with a mortgage broker, she's going to have your information there. She's going to be able then to discuss with you what's the best way forward for you, how much you're going to be able to borrow, what your kind of budget is. She'll discuss with you what your budget is for your mortgage and your monthly outgoings. And then she'll be able to adjust and work to suit you for the term of the mortgage to make sure that it's affordable in that. To make it much quicker and easier to get the end, the end thing, the quickest mortgage possible, have everything prepared like that before you make an appointment with the mortgage broker. Now you may think, Why do I need to go to a broker? I can go to my bank. But unfortunately, even the big banks these days, there's no such thing as loyalty. So you could go to your bank, which a lot of people I've had come to me have done that. They've gone to the bank and they've just said, no, sorry, you won't get a mortgage. And that they're heartbroken because they think, well, that's it. I can't get a mortgage in my situation. But that isn't true. The reason this happens is because every bank has their criteria that they will lend on. Some of them, don't like self-employed. You have to be, all criteria, all rules that they have that they lend to clients. So just because you're turned down by your bank doesn't mean that you won't get a mortgage. There's a mortgage company out there for 99% of people. So don't let that put you off in the beginning. So you go to see a broker and you make your appointment. And a lot of people, when they ring up and make an appointment with me, they'll say, oh, I'm just ringing, but really I haven't got much hope because I know I won't get a mortgage. And the reasons they give is self-employed, credit problems, their age, they're on benefits, they don't have a deposit, they're renting and they can't afford to save up, they've just changed employment, or they haven't been employed very long, or they just don't think it's affordable. Every one of those can be bypassed and there's a lender to suit every one of those situations. Can you still hear me all right? Please, if you've got any questions, just shout out. I don't mind at all. So first of all, self-employment. Self-employment in itself isn't a problem. As long as you have 1 year's accounts, there's lenders that'll do mortgages for people with 1 year's self-employed accounts. If you're a limited company, no problem again. If you have, 2 years accounts or 3 years accounts, you may get a better interest rate, but there is mortgages out there for just 1 year's self-employed accounts. If you have credit problems, if anybody's had any credit problems in the past, again, that can be surpassed. That can be surpassed as long as the lenders know in advance and we know which lender that's going to suit you, then again, there is mortgages out there for you. Another problem, the third one that you get, is that I won't get a mortgage, I'm too old. That is not applicable these days at all. We can now get repayment mortgages up to the age of 90, which I'm sure none of you want to have a mortgage to pay when you're 90, but they are out there. There is lenders. The best advice I can give you, at one time when people bought their property, they bought a property for the family and they stayed there for life. They paid their mortgage off long before in retirement, so they didn't have to think about, apart from their living expenses, what they were going to cost them in retirement. These days, what I would recommend is always to have a private pension in place if you can while you're working, because that gives you the opportunity later in life, if you want to move property, upgrade your property, or whatever you want to do, you've got that opportunity right up to the age of 60 and 70. Because as long as you've got a private pension, then mortgages will be available to later life. Now, anyone on benefits, again, think this could be a problem. We can get mortgages for clients with, it's on universal credit, working tax credit, child benefit, PIP, if anybody's on income, on PIP benefit. All of these can be taken in consideration for affordability for a mortgage. So don't think that if you're on a sort of semi-low income and you're getting these benefits that you can only use the income. You can use the benefits as well for affordability. They'll even take now, if you're getting carer's allowance for a child, they will allow you to use that as income. Another one of the main problems is, I just don't have a deposit. Or as the guy said down here, I've no money. That isn't a problem necessarily, because we also have a lender now that has a good mortgage for clients that are renting. They'll do 100% mortgage if you've been renting for 6 months or 12 months and you can show your rent continuously being paid over that time. So don't think, I'm renting, I can't save a deposit. There's still opportunities available to you to own your own property, as long as you try and keep things in order financially. We have a new mortgage as well now, where if you do have a small 5% deposit, you can also defer 3 months' payments. So if those first 3 months that you're going to be in your property, you're going to have no mortgage to pay. All these little things that's been brought out for first-time buyers now that were never available a few years ago. There's a lot of help now for first-time buyers out there. If you haven't been in employment very long, or if you're changing employment and you think, well, bad time to get a mortgage, I'm just going to change jobs in a couple of months. Yes, I'm going to have my income's going to go up, I better wait. No need to wait, because as long as you've got that signed contract, a mortgage lender will accept it, as long as the signed contract's there, and they'll use that new income for the affordability. So, as I say, all of these things that normally people come to me and say that they can't get a mortgage for, they can all be taken care of. They all have their different criteria again that you need to cover, but normally we can sort that out and find someone that will lend you a first-time buyer mortgage. Anyone have any questions while I'm here on that? No? Yes? Sorry.
Do you know those you mentioned that do the 100% mortgage loans? Do they have higher interest rates than others that don't?
Not greatly, not greatly. Might be a tiny bit more. But it's good to get onto the ladder, because once you're on the ladder, in 2 or 3 years' time, when you come to remortgage, the property value will have gone up a little bit. You will have paid some money off that. So, rather than wait 3 years or 5 years, the property will have gone up in price anyway. You may as well pay that little bit extra to get your property earlier, and then you can remortgage onto a more normal rate. So it swings and roundabouts, but it's better to get onto the property ladder as soon as you can. Anybody else? Is that everything? Okay. So as I say, when you go to see your broker, then they will go through all this with you and get over all the objections that's there. You will then know, once you've seen the mortgage broker, how much the cost of the property you can afford to go and buy. You'll know if you can go for a 200,000 new build, or if you want to go for a first-time flat, for about 100,000. You'll know the sort of property that you're able to look at and what your budget's going to, let you get the mortgage for. So that's the best thing to do. Be prepared, get everything in order, and then look for the property. Don't just go out thinking, oh, I've seen that house, I must have it, but have nothing in place. Because that's going to take longer to go on, and more chance of losing the property. So the rates. Bank of England base rate went down again this week. That's wonderful. Hopefully the lenders will keep putting their rates down again in the coming week. But they have gone down quite a bit. I mean, the average one now is about 4.5, around the 4%. And hopefully we'll get more under the 3% in the weeks to come. The higher your loan to value, so the less deposit you have,
the higher, your rate will be a little bit higher. But as I say, getting onto that market is always going to be beneficial, even though you might have to pay a little bit extra on the interest rate. Later life lending. I did touch on age before, on the objections, but there is a lot of choice now for later life lending. Looking around, I don't suppose there's a lot of you are sort of that stage now where you're ready for later life lending. But mortgages now can go up to the age 80, 90. We even have buy-to-let mortgages up to the age of 115. So, you know, age isn't a problem these days, apart from the fact you can't walk very well. Yes, later life lending. Anyone has any relatives or, you know, someone that has a problem, maybe their mortgage or have one and it's paid off, but they want to you know, money to lend on, they want to remortgage again into later life, then, you know, go to a broker, have a word with them. There will be some opportunities out there for you. I did mention at the beginning, but we do have the whole of the market to search for mortgages as well. So, you know, not just going to one or two banks and looking at those, we do have the whole of the market. So that's residential, really, all I've got to, advice to give to you. As I say, I'm willing to take any questions, but for residential, that's sort of everything at the moment there. When we mentioned affordability as well, just going to that, we do have what they call, say a couple want to buy a property and their affordability just doesn't meet enough for that mortgage. We can allow one or two other people, parents or relatives or friends, to go onto that mortgage and use their income. They don't go on the mortgage or the deeds of the property, just the first income that own the property or on the deeds. But the other two go on the mortgage for the affordability, and then they take them off in 2 or 3 years when their income's increased. So another way of getting over the affordability problem. So if you can leave residential for a moment and maybe look at the buy-to-let. Buy-to-let, has anyone got buy-to-let properties in here at the moment? No? Yes. Obviously, buy-to-let's a different kettle of fish altogether to residential. You can be a first-time buyer and first-time owner and purchase a buy-to-let property. You can, with your income for a buy-to-let, it isn't classed on your income, it's classed on the rent from the property that you're getting, and that's what they use for affordability for a buy-to-let. So with a lot of lenders, no necessary minimum income at all. So as I say, buy-to-let is a big opportunity at the moment, and even first-time buyers, first-time landlords can get a buy-to-let mortgage these days. I don't know how I'm doing for time, Theodora. That's not... let's see, what else can I go over here? I think that's about all. I need some questions from you.
Hiya, just a quick question.
Yes.
With the buy-to-let, so you need you need a 25% deposit then?
Yes, with buy-to-lets, well, 20% deposit if you don't mind paying a higher interest rate, but normally the best rates are 70 to 75%, loan to value for a buy-to-let. Yeah.
Thanks, Amelia. Just for knowledge base, when you mention about old age lending, that they could lend up to 105 or thereabout.
Yes.
So most of the client instructions that I get through, we've talked about equity release and so is that different from equity release?
Yes, it
This
is.
just normal lending.
It's later life lending, it's not equity release.
So how come that most people don't go for that and they go for this equity release, which to me really is not,
Yeah.
it's not an ethical thing, really, because
No.
most of the terms are not favorable to the client.
Yes, equity release, they don't have to make payments. And I think that's the thing. Later life lending, yes, you would still have the interest to pay, either the interest to pay or you can pay the repayment, whichever fits your budget, you know. Later life lending, you will still have the affordability of the interest only. But equity release, obviously, it's a smaller percentage. It's only maybe up to 40%. As you get older, you can borrow a bit more, but you don't have the commitment of having to pay that mortgage. You can let it, but as you know, it mounts up, and sometimes you can have with very little equity left. So later life lending, if you can afford the interest only, especially if you've got inheritance, you want to leave an inheritance, later life lending can be the better option. It just depends on, yes, 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 yes.
My question is, for example, I have like an ISA account,
Yes.
where I'm depositing money for like a house in my private name. But I have a company, I want to buy the house on the...
In your company name?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So how can I use my personal ISA account to switch it over to my company's account?
Now that, to switch it over to your company account.
Yes, can I use as a deposit? Can I switch the money?
To be honest, I can't answer that. I would have to look into that for you. I have to deal with a lot of limited company buy-to-lets, but whether it will allow you to use a personal ISA into your limited company, I wouldn't know. I'd have to find that out for you. Sorry.
Can I assist with that?
Yes, please.
I think what you will need to do, because the lifetime ISA you are using to purchase that property, to get the benefit of the 25% that the government is going to add to it, you need to buy the property personally. You cannot use it to transfer it to the, but later on, maybe if you then manage to pay off that mortgage, or you then able to sell the property to the company after you might have been on the mortgage for a while, that would be a different transaction. But purchasing it, you cannot transfer that money to use it for the company
No,
to
I
buy
wouldn't
it.
have
You
thought
must
so.
buy it.
Yeah. The only thing is there, though, is that once she comes to sell it, it would have to be a sale and purchase into the limited company. So you would have the expense of that again. But that's one way of using the deposit, yes. Thank you.
And the lifetime ISA, that the government adds something to 25% thereabout, there is a limit to the property you can buy, the price, the value.
I believe it's £500, isn't it?
In London area, the value is higher than in the northeast. I think the northeast is 250. 400, yes. So some people have saved for 4 years, 5 years, and waiting for the lifetime, the government to add the extra, only to discover that their property, the value of the property they are
It's
buying
gone
is
up,
higher.
yeah.
And they will refuse to give you the percentage.
Yeah.
You can't buy it.
Yes.
Okay, now, I'm not an expert, okay? I'm not an expert, but in a situation like that, you have to weigh your options because, yes, the government can add 25% depending on the size of the property. But if you want to do property entrepreneurship, and I'm sure Sister Damola will probably, advise more on that. If I have money in an ISA, and that's the only place I have a deposit, and I see a property that I can use as buy-to-let, okay, I can shut that ISA down and buy that property and then start saving again, or withdraw that money, buy the property, start saving again. If you are within the age bracket, because the earlier you buy, the better at the end of the day. Once you have a stream of income from that property, not only is the value of the asset increasing year by year, you also have an income coming into that company. And whatever you give as your initial loan to the company, you can take back. Because that's a personal loan to the company. So if, let's say, you have 15,000 in your ISA, okay, and you use that, you loan that to the company, you can use that to buy the property, okay, while you continue to save. Now, that is still your money, which the company will pay back to you once rental, income comes.
Yeah.
So that's my layman's understanding.
Hallelujah. Please, the only way to learn is by interaction in matters like this. Let's listen well and then ask questions. Whatever has been said that is not clear, we are investing time in this, but God is here investing everything in us so that we can truly break through. Please don't keep quiet. Let's get involved.
Hello. Hi. I
Hi.
have a question. What's your take on not buying property in your name, or buying, like, getting a trust on your property instead of buying in your name?
Sorry, I didn't hear. Can you?
Like, instead of buying in your name, you get a trust or a liability company over it. Not just buying in your name.
You mean buying your
Yeah.
property in a limited company against it? Do you have? Yes, it depends on tax and everything. There's a lot to it. Okay. Are you happy? Do you want me to finish now? Yes. Thanks very much for listening. I hope I've been some use to you.
Another round of applause for Mrs. Dodds. Thank you so much for that wealth of knowledge.